Greetings moto guys and moto gals, and welcome back to the 333. There's nothing sexier than a nice booty, whether it's on your soulmate or on your bike. In this clip, I'll show you how I installed the tail tidy on my 2018 Honda CB1000R and made my already sexy beast just a little bit sexier.
I like big butts and I cannot lie. You other brothers can't deny.
All of you who've been following my vlog know that I love my bike, just like you probably love yours. Our bikes are kind of like the modern day equivalent of the cowboy's trusty horse, and we all have our own unique bonds with them. In the case of the Shiny Bee, or the Beezer as I've been calling my bike lately, I've done a few basic upgrades and personal touches to make it mine, but I was pretty darn happy with how it came set up from the dealership. One thing that has bothered me since day one, however, is this thing.
This ridiculous thing.
It's called a rear plate hugger and it serves two main purposes. First, it mounts and illuminates the license plate as required by law. And second, it serves as a shield to block the rider's back from being hit by road spray during messy riding conditions. There's no debating that the hugger worked exactly as designed for a while, and I accepted it. But in recent months, my feelings towards it have changed. Every time I'd see my bike, I feel like it had a mullet. And the hugger has become a giant nuisance, particularly for chain maintenance, where it blocks the chain adjustment bolts and nullifies all the benefits of owning a bike with a single-sided swing arm. Installing a tail tidy on a new bike is a fairly common customization, and in general, it's pretty easy to do. You don't have to be a master mechanic. But in the case of the 2018 CB1000R, it's actually pretty involved. Way more than it should be. For some reason, Honda's engineers clearly designed the rear plate hugger to remain permanently affixed to the bike. As I started to dig into what would be involved in removing it, I was surprised by the level of difficulty and effort that would be required. Which is probably why it took me the better part of a year to get around to taking it off. I don't know about you, but anytime I attempt a wrenching project on my bike, I spend a lot of time planning it out first. Probably too much time. I'm a strong believer in the old saying, measure twice, cut once. And so the first thing I spent time on was putting together a detailed punch list. This is my punch list here. You can probably freeze the video and take a closer look at it, or direct message me on Instagram and I'll send you a copy of it. While you are putting together your punch list, it's probably a good time to choose and order a tail tidy kit if you haven't done so already. Surprisingly, there aren't many companies producing a lot of aftermarket accessories for the 2018 CB1000R. Initially, I chose the Mustard Bike's tail tidy kit for my bike. It looked to be decent quality, and Mustard Bikes had the only detailed installation video I could find for the CB1000R. Mustard Bikes is based in Tasmania, and even though I put in an order for my tail tidy kit back in April, it never was delivered due to the COVID-19 restrictions in Australia. So I ended up using the R&G Tail Tidy Kit instead. It's also a high quality kit, but with very limited installation instructions. If you own a 2018 CB1000R model or newer, and have been seriously jonesing to remove the giant clunky plate hugger like I was, then you'll need to make a critical choice before you even pick up a wrench or a hex driver. That choice is whether to attempt to remove the hugger with the rear wheel on the bike, or to take off the rear wheel. The purpose of the single-sided swing arm is to make rear maintenance on the bike easier, including removing the rear wheel. But with the 2018 CB1000R models and newer, this is actually a bit of a pain in the ass. Why? Because no one makes a side paddock stand for the bike that allows you to remove the rear wheel. If you know this not to be the case, then please, by all means, share that stand information in the comments. I checked with every major stand manufacturer, and none of them make a side stand for the CB1000R that allows you to remove the rear wheel. Not Pitbull, not Trackside, not Dynamoto. R&G does make a side paddock stand for the CB1000R, however, it explicitly warns against using it to remove the rear wheel. So how's a brother with a CB1000R supposed to take his rear wheel off then? You need one of these. It's called an Abba Superbike stand, and it works amazingly well. Sturdy, simple in design, and reasonably priced, the Superbike stand allows you to lift the rear wheel of the CB1000R easily off the ground. I'm not going to lecture you on which method of removing the plate hugger is best. I think that's a personal decision that needs to be made based on your mechanical ability and your budget. But I will say this, I think trying to remove the plate hugger without removing the rear wheel first will be a long, painful, profanity-filled evening in your garage. Because the process of prepping the bike, removing the plate hugger, and assembling and installing the tail tidy is pretty lengthy, I'm not going to be able to go into every detail. A great resource to follow, no matter which brand of tail tidy you choose, is the Superbike's installation video. I put a link to it in the comments. In this video, I'm going to focus on all the key steps that need to be completed. The first of these steps is prepping the bike to remove the rear wheel. With the bike on the ground, you should first remove the slip-on exhaust can and then break the lugs on the rear wheel. I use a small breaker bar for this. Be sure to only break the lugs at this step, not loosen or remove them. You won't be able to break the lugs once the bike is up on the stand, which is why you need to break them with the bike still on the ground, similar to the process for changing a car tire. With the wheel lugs broken and the exhaust can removed, you can now raise the bike up on the Abba Superbike stand. Loosen and remove the lugs and easily pull off the rear wheel. If you're unfamiliar with the Abba Superbike stand, I put a link to their product video in the comments. If you've been riding your CB1000R for any length of time and regularly cleaning and lubricating your chain, then you'll notice right away that the inside of the swing arm will be gunked up pretty nicely. As you can see here, instead of being a nice bright silver, it's more like the color of dog dookie. I spent some time cleaning up the entire swing arm area of the bike before I took any tools to it, and I'd suggest you do the same as well. I just used a mixture of simple green, warm water, and a drop of dish soap, and it worked really well at stripping away the gunk. After doing some cleanup and inspection of the rear swing arm, you can start to disassemble the rear plate hugger. There's a wire that runs from a harness buried below the seat compartment down to the license plate illumination light on the hugger. You'll want to save as much of this wire as possible, as you'll need to reroute it back up through the seat and pillion compartments to the new tail tidy. Disconnecting and rerouting this wire would be impossible with the back wheel on, as Honda has attached it in several obscure spots, with very stubborn wire clips. The wire is also tightly tucked in with both the rear brake line and the rear ABS sensor line in a narrow channel hidden behind the chain guard, again making it virtually impossible to free up without removing the rear wheel. With the plate illumination wire free from the hugger and swing arm, you can now remove the hugger itself. It's attached to the swing arm with 3 simple hex nuts, but it's torqued pretty tightly, which would be another thing made more difficult by not removing the rear wheel. The R&G kit comes with stainless replacement nuts that will keep the empty hugger threads from getting filled with road gunk, so you'll want to install these with a bit of Loctite after removing the hugger. Now that the giant hugger is gone and the rear wheel is off, it's the perfect time to do a rear brake inspection and a chain adjustment. Both tasks now made super easy by the abundant workspace and topics for another video. Just make sure to have your shop manual on hand for all the correct torque settings. Once you have the hugger and its wiring free, you can put the rear tire and the exhaust can back on the bike. The plate illumination light wire that you worked free from the swing arm now needs to be rerouted up into the battery compartment from below the subframe. There's a bracket by the fuel tank you should loosen and feed the wire beneath it. The remaining work depends upon which tail tidy kit you purchased. The R&G kit requires you to free the pillion seat locking plate, the brake light, and to disconnect and remove the stock indicator lights. These get mounted to the tail tidy kit, and then the whole unit is mounted back on the bike and the wiring fed back through the pillion compartment. It's not too difficult, although the R&G kit's instructions are very lacking. Just take your time, lay everything out on a work surface, and the kit comes together pretty easily. The only wiring connections you will need to make are on the cut ends of the plate illumination light wires that you rerouted. and the R&G kit supplies the proper connectors for those as well. Be sure to check all your lights before you button everything up. Make sure the correct indicators are installed on the correct sides of the tail tidy. Make sure your brake lights work. And make sure the plate illumination light is working. As you can see, the bulk of the work is in removing the plate hugger and rerouting its wiring. Once you get past that, installing the tail tidy kit is fairly simple. Take your time and good luck with whichever approach you decide to take. If you found this content useful, please subscribe, hit the thumbs up, and leave a comment. Thanks and ride safely, my dudes.